Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today to talk about risk management, detection, and response. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Really do appreciate people taking time out of their day for us to discuss this with you. So, we're going to talk about cybersecurity and how it has changed and the risks that we see people experiencing when it comes to cybersecurity. We're also going to talk about how it is a comprehensive challenge that involves your entire organization and multiple sub portions of your organization. All of the people that are part of whatever you do are affected by cybersecurity. We're going to talk a little bit about Guardian Shield, our solution to some of the challenges that we see that are affecting really all types of organizations of all sizes when it comes to cybersecurity. So I want to talk about the risk, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I want to talk about the actual reality that we are seeing, and I just want to make sure everyone is fully aware of what we're facing as people that are impacted by cybersecurity, and us helping our customers in whatever ways we can reduce their cybersecurity risk. And I want everyone to understand what cybercrime is. And if everyone does, I'm not meaning to insult everyone, but we do find quite often when we talk to customers that cybersecurity is still looked at as this thing that sometimes happens to some, and that it's being directed by, small groups or individuals. And there is some of that. That there's a little bit of that out there, but that's not the majority of it. And the majority of it today is a organized crime industry that is massive, huge, and making the worst people the most money. It is more profitable today than the illegal drug trade for criminal organizations. And I'm not talking about just criminal organizations that started, since cybercrime really became active in the last 10, 15 years. We're talking about major criminal organizations that have existed in different parts of the world for hundreds of years, now being heavily involved in cybercrime because their personal risk, their actual, you know, impact to themselves as an individual risk, doing cybercrime versus selling drugs is much less, and their potential profitability is much higher. This article is from 2020, and it suggested that by 2025, cybercrime would cost the world $10.5 trillion. That's what it would be as a dollar amount if we were to total it all up. So we're now at 2025, and the estimate was 10.5. Current estimates put it over 15 trillion by the end of this year. Just to understand what that means, that's bigger than healthcare worldwide as an industry. It's bigger than agricultural and food worldwide. It's bigger than the auto industry by itself. It doesn't have any tariffs. It doesn't have any restrictions. It doesn't have anybody preventing it across every country in the world. There's no laws that prevent it from taking place. It's almost impossible to charge people outside of your own country for doing cybercrime inside your country. So the ability to go after the bad people is the most difficult of just about any criminal activity that exists. So of course, it attracts the worst people very quickly to do as much as they possibly can with it. We see different statistics out there all the time that give us an idea of what the risk is. 61% of SMEs were the target of a cyber attack. Now, SME is a big space. It's small, medium enterprise. In Canada, that's organizations, depending on how you qualify it, 2,500 down to, one user. But these numbers track in every subgroup of SME. We see this in the very smallest of businesses. We see this in, the SMB space, the true SMB, 300 users or less. We see this in the 500 user space. We see this in the 1,000 user space. We've really gotten to the point now where there is no group that is, protected because of their size or anonymity from cyber attacks. They're going after everyone all the time because there's the ability to extract money from just about anyone. The next one is $1 million. Well, for a lot of organizations, $1 million is much more than their total revenue, or if they're a nonprofit, the total amount of money they deal with in a year. But the percentages track just as well. where $1 million is what we see on average for a larger organization in the 500 plus users, we see for a, 100 user organization, it's costing them $100,000 or more to suffer a cybersecurity event. And when you look at a cybersecurity event, depending on what your organization does, the downtime cost, the loss of revenue, the inability to provide the support services you do, whatever it is you might do, the cost isn't just the immediate cost, it's the long-term ramification and ongoing costs. And I say ongoing costs because the next statistic is very critical. 67% of cybercrime victims are hit again in the next year. Most people don't have the right protection in place, and therefore they're not able to understand that it's happening, and they don't see it happening continuously, and they don't suffer a single cybersecurity event. They suffer a series of continuous cybersecurity events. And a critical component to this is the root cause analysis and the ability to review and understand what happened so you can actually clean it up, get rid of it, and make sure it doesn't happen again, or significantly reduce the impact of it happening again, and be aware as soon as possible when it does happen. We're also seeing the attacks change dramatically in the last few years. AI is a portion of this. There's now automation that bad actors are using to attack us. And then there's AI we're using to protect ourselves. And there's an AI cybersecurity battle going on, and we're stuck in the middle of it. And we see all types of target lists getting attacked on a regular basis now. We are seeing almost every day some large organization gets some level of their content, their data about people and users getting compromised and getting out in the wild. And that then allows the bad actors to do a better job of social engineering and a better job of attacking to be able to get into something, to be able to get money out of someone. Whether it's a person in an organization, it's an organization as a whole, or an individual, those risks just continue to increase because of the depth and level of attacks that are going on, the interconnectedness of data across different systems, and we're starting to see that risk go up, and the volume just continues to increase. It's easier to monetize than ever before because of crypto crime and Bitcoin. And when we see Bitcoin and you look at Bitcoin and ransomware, and if you were to chart the rise of Bitcoin and you were to chart the rise of ransomware, they're almost a perfect match, because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has allowed the bad actors to extract money in a way that didn't previously easily exist. And so that's just expedited the ability for cybercrime to take place at a dramatic level. And in some ways, we're doing this to ourselves. We want to be able to work anywhere, anytime, from any device. But there's risks that come with that. And there's major security concerns that come with hybrid work and BYOD and all the different cloud services that are out there, and leveraging them and using them. So we have to be super careful about how we implement those services and have the right security behind them. When we look at the threat of the cyber landscape, and you're going to see this same graphic later when I do the demo of one of our primary tools, we're not just looking at a risk of the core network anymore. Our network is everywhere all the time at once by all people. We have people working remotely from home, remotely travel users. We have people accessing corporate data on their mobile phones, their tablets, their work PCs, potentially their home PCs. How do we protect them when they're outside the core network? How do we protect the core network? Do we understand everything that's happening inside the network? All of this needs to be understood. We have the attacks, we have vulnerabilities, we have misconfigurations, we have phishing. There's so many different ways that bad actors can take action against us. We have to make sure we have our Swiss Army knife of protection to start making sure we're in a good place. So it's a challenge. And one of the challenges that we see is some of the assumptions people tend to make. This generally takes place more in the SMB market than in the larger organizations and enterprise, because the larger organizations usually have more of an insurance requirement, or may have other external organizations forcing security practices upon them. But people have some misconceptions that backups are good enough. Backups are great for recovering, but you still have to have the downtime and go through recovery. If you were in the best place, you'd never have to use the backup. So we really want good backups in case we have to go there, but we want to, whenever possible, to put all the necessary protection in that we never have to go to the backups. I have antivirus and a firewall. I'm protected. Great. You have a firewall protecting you and you're behind the firewall. As soon as you step out of the office, you don't have a firewall anymore, you're not as protected. It's a software firewall. Software firewalls are great depending on where you're using that computer, because there's a whole bunch of ways software firewalls can be prevented and worked around. Same thing with antivirus. A lot of people have antivirus today. Antivirus that we were using a few years ago is not providing the level of protection we need now. We need real-time anomaly-based protection, and traditional antivirus doesn't get it done anymore. I have cybersecurity insurance. I can survive a breach. No, cybersecurity insurance gives you the money to pay for the cost of getting through the breach. Doesn't stop the breach, and it certainly doesn't stop the impact to your business of the breach happening, whatever it is you might do. I'll be able to tell if something is wrong. No, you won't. By the time you know something's wrong, it's already too late. We want to know something's wrong before it hits you and impacts you. And if possible, prevent it or limit it as much as possible. When you can usually tell something's wrong, it's usually too hard and very damaging, costly, and expensive to fix it. And someone will manage this internally. That someone is the person who should be in charge of the organization. That's who should be managing cybersecurity. Because when your organization gets compromised, it's not the IT person that gets dragged in front of the media to defend and explain what happened. It's the person in charge that has to defend and explain why this happened. And you don't usually see the average employee, having to worry about how that impacts. It's the C-level. It's the people at the top that are the ones that have to answer for why this has happened. And that's often a misconception that, oh, my IT person's taking care of it. Oh, my service provider's taking care of it. They're both a part of the solution, but it's senior executive that has to make sure it's happening. Now, often people's reaction will be, I'll go get a tool. I'll put that tool in place and it'll protect me from this. Well, tools are important. Let's look at building a house. You need tools, you need materials, you need a plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't know what materials you need. If you don't buy the right materials, you won't get the right tools. If you go out and get a tool to do wood and you decide to build with cement, you've got the wrong tools. And you can build a beautiful wood wall, but a wood wall isn't what you need if you need a cement wall. And if you don't have a plan and you're just deciding to put it together on the fly, well, you're going to end up with a very interesting looking house. Cybersecurity is very the same way. We need a plan. And we need a complete solution that doesn't force us to have to react to what's happening in each of the different types of impacts you can have from cybersecurity. We need something that sees all the different potential risks and gives us the ability to visualize them, act on them, and help do proper root cause analysis when something happens. And I say when and I don't say if, because every single organization is going to get attacked. What protection and detection systems we put in place limits how much that attack impacts your organization. Earlier, I mentioned antivirus and moving to the newer generation of antivirus and, anomaly-based detection. And what you'll often hear in the industry talked about, and we have a lot of terms in this industry and we love acronyms, but endpoint detection and response. And that's kind of the next generation antivirus that sort of replaced, the Norton antivirus of old with modern new antivirus tools. You'll hear of quite a few of them. CrowdStrike's one that we've heard in the news recently. There's other NDR and XDR detection systems that combine the functionality of endpoint detection and network detection. But really, we want a true, complete managed detection and response solution. We want to have an endpoint component. We want to have a network component. We want to have an outside of the network component. We want someone's eyes on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, understanding if something's happening, when it's happening, what is happening, and we want to be able to act on it immediately and limit and mitigate the risk as quickly as possible. And that's really what managed detection and response means. It takes all those other tools, brings them together in a solution, takes that oversight, review, monitoring, and alerting on top of it, and allows us to act quickly, efficiently, effectively when an event takes place. It gives us the detailed information about what happened, how it happened, the root cause analysis, and lets us mitigate the risk as much as possible, get everything back to the state it should be as quickly as possible, and limit the downtime as much as we can. 24/7 capability is critical. We need to be able to do certain actions even while we're all sleeping. And so we need a service, a capability, a tool, and a technology and a team that can ensure that when bad things are happening at night, actions are still taking place. So we're not left with the leftovers of what happened during the night the next morning. So why would you use MDR, a managed detection and response solution, as a comprehensive component as opposed to getting the individual components and trying to put it together yourself? The number one thing is going to be a lack of resources. Most organizations can't afford, don't know how to manage, or don't have the capability to keep cybersecurity professionals on staff. They're very expensive, they're in very high demand right now, and it's very difficult to onboard that to an organization if you don't have a senior cybersecurity person in your senior executive who's going to stay with you for a long time. And so the resourcing becomes a major challenge. The cost of cyber attacks. You need to do what you can to mitigate as much as possible up front. It's getting to the point now where if you don't have an MDR solution, you either may be refused for cybersecurity insurance or you may pay a much higher premium than those that have an MDR solution in place. We've been helping customers answer or fill out their cybersecurity insurance applications since it began. When it started, I don't even remember, almost 10 years ago now, the first application forms were like a single page. I think there was like 5 or 6 questions. We've done some this year for some of our larger customers. They're 30 pages. They want a report. They want an explanation. They want to know in detail exactly what your organization is doing to prevent, protect, and defend, and what you're doing to mitigate, what team you have in place, how they operate, what they're doing, all of that information just to apply, just to have the privilege of asking if you can get a quote to maybe get the insurance. So that's where we're getting to because the cost of the insurance companies is getting so high. The threat risk is constantly changing and ever becoming more difficult. We need modern day protection with a team behind it and AI to manage against the protected risk that we have. And as I mentioned, we need to monitor and we need to automate as much as possible. So some of the things can take place automatically without any of us having to be involved, and we can keep that protection level higher all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So who should be using MDR? Well, really every size and type of organization, MDR can fit for them. Certainly in the SMB space, an MDR solution is going to be the best way to move forward than trying to do it yourselves. We have larger organizations that have a security team and are using our solution with them so that they don't have to manage and monitor the tools, and that service is provided for them. So it really applies to all types of organizations, no matter what size you are. What's critical is understanding your security posture and understanding how the solution fits into everything that you're doing for your entire cybersecurity protection portfolio. So our answer to this is our Guardian Shield MDR. It is a world-class service built on some of the best tools out there in the industry, leveraging our managed services skills and capability to deliver a comprehensive solution to our customers. We actually deliver this in 2 different formats. For the organizations that have a large IT department and have a cybersecurity team, they utilize the tool set from us with the ability to escalate to us in our self-managed MDR solution, where they're able to get the benefits of the tool set and the security operations center, but deal with the alerts and the management of any issues that come up themselves first, and then reach out to us when they need assistance. In the co-managed MDR, we take the primary role of getting all the alerts and moving forward with any remediation recommendations back to the customer and working on those items with the customer. So it's whether you want to manage it yourself or you want us to help manage it with you. Generally, this is going to align to size of organization more than anything else. The reasons you're going to love it. the AROs, and I'll demonstrate those in a little bit. The 24/7 monitoring, the domain monitoring. This is critical. How many of you received an email from someone that looks like your domain name, but one or two letters are different? We have domain protection, domain spoofing built into the solution. Threat hunting, the system actually goes and looks for improper activity in the network, on the devices, all throughout your environment to see signs of things that shouldn't be happening early on before it become a full-blown issue. Suspicious email analysis, DNS firewall, active response, a full-blown portal to active and utilize the service, and great reporting and roll-up of services. It's across your entire organization. It protects the endpoints, it protects the network, it protects the cloud. It really is that 360 degrees of protection that we need to make sure that we have, because all those different components today are at risk for you. And it is a layered defense solution. It's combination of our SOC, our support teams, your users, and the systems your users are using. It works across all of those, understanding vulnerabilities, understanding risk, providing different levels of protection. We want to make sure that it is a proactive service. It's in place the right way, and it adheres to the industry standard compliance frameworks. We've used CIS, NIST, the Canadian cybersecurity standards. We have different customers that adhere to all different types of security standards and security frameworks. We need a solution that works across those different frameworks and allows us to leverage them as a part of an organization's overall cybersecurity posture. So to leave you with why, minimize your risk. The more pieces we can put in place to defend, protect, understand the risk to your environment, we're not going to prevent it, can't guarantee that, but we're going to minimize the chance of a breach. We're also going to minimize the impact of a breach, and we're going to improve the time to recover. And we have that 24/7 availability of the service. I'm going to take a minute now and just show you briefly a little bit of how the tool looks and works. So just to confirm, you can see my console. It's changed from the PowerPoint. Just want to confirm that. So this is one of the tools that's at the core of Guardian Shield, and this is our managed detection and response portal. So in here, we are protecting cloud services. We're protecting internet capability. We're protecting and getting logs from your firewall appliances, your network devices, your endpoints inside the network and outside of the network. This diagram only shows them inside the network, but the same protections apply on the endpoints when they're outside of your core network. And really what the core of this is we have an agent that goes on all of the devices. It either works in concert with or enhances the existing antivirus / EDR solution that you have in place. And it gives us back real-time alert and log information. It also takes the log and alert information coming out of your cloud services and correlates that with the alerts coming out of the endpoints, the servers, and the network. Because we want to see the chain of events of what's happening. If we see something pop up on an endpoint, we want to understand, do we then see that on the network and on a second endpoint? Do we see that going across a VPN to other devices? Do we see something happening in the cloud, a compromised account that then puts that endpoint and therefore the network and or the cloud service like Microsoft 365 at risk? We want to correlate all those different logs, all those different real-time alerts together, and we correlate that into the AROs, the action response objectives. And these are what tell us what's happening and allow us to take action. So we deploy this solution across all the different components. We have the appliance in place that is checking on the network, and we're doing network monitoring. So that's actually seeing the traffic on the network at your primary or secondary locations where you have users working from on a regular basis and looking at all the traffic on the network. It's actually looking inside the network to see what's going on and what traffic's going where. We have the endpoint monitoring on the actual devices, servers, workstations, and iPhones, tablets also. We then have the Microsoft 365 in this case, also G Suite, Dropbox, other cloud services. So we're correlating the logs from different services. In this example customer, we don't have a DNS firewall in place, but that DNS firewall could be deployed out to protect the endpoints. What that allows for is you click on a link, it's got a bad website, you try to go to that bad website, the DNS firewall prevents you from going there because it knows that's a bad website. What we utilize is the AROs. And an example of an ARO would be something like this. The endpoint system running on some workstations has determined that some of these endpoints have a vulnerable operating system risk. Either the version of the operating system they're running doesn't have a patch, or it has a configuration that needs to be changed that is putting these devices at risk because of a variety of different subcomponents in the operating system, and upgrades need to be done to those operating systems to mitigate those risks. And then it gives us all the detailed information about what those are. We see vulnerable software being detected. A specific risk in a specific application might be Adobe software. It might be an NVIDIA driver for your video card. It might be another tool or piece of software that you have installed that has some level of risk that's been reported because of a vulnerability in the code, or because people have been compromising it and you need to upgrade to a later version to help mitigate that risk. We also see examples where potentially an application's been installed that could be a remote administration application. Did you expect a remote admin application to be installed on your devices? And if not, then we need to mitigate that, because that could be installed by a bad actor to be able to get access to that device. We want to know about those types of things right away. So these are just some of the types of examples that we see, and we get very good descriptive information. Here is the risk. Here is what you need to do to remediate it, and here's the best practices. So if you're self-managed, a lot of the information exists to move forward with it. If you're in the co-managed solution, it gives us a complete set of steps to follow across all the different ones that may exist within your organization. And then we get some really good insights about the environment. We get to see where the different risks are, what kind of security events are taking place, and what level of risk we have within. And of course, because I'm demonstrating live, it's taking a while to load. So it shows us where our different type of events have taken place and what kind. And in this sample exam, we've only seen endpoint risks. We haven't seen the other types. It gives lots of detailed reporting and information across the organization. It also gives us some risk score information that lets us understand, and it's not based on any one specific security framework, which is a good thing. It's an overall risk assessment based on what information is coming in and telling us, oh, this is the risk level we see, and these are the different categories. And then we can go down into the history and see, has our overall cybersecurity risk improved or reduced? And we can drill down into different areas, and then we can align that to any cybersecurity framework that you're following to improve your overall cybersecurity posture. So I could go on for days about the product, one of the products that's part of the solution. There's a couple of other ones. This is the one that sort of brings it all together. I'll stop there so that we have time to go back to follow up and any questions. So next step, the most important thing. If you don't have a security posture today, you don't know what your cybersecurity posture is, aren't sure what a cybersecurity posture really means, reach out to someone and talk about it, please. You should know what your cybersecurity risk is. You should have it assessed. You should understand where you are, what you need to prioritize, and how you're going to get it done. Guardian Shield MDR is a fantastic portion of your overall cybersecurity solution, but it's not everything you need to do by itself. Understand regulatory requirements, integration, customization, and scalability. Any of these things are things you need to understand and worry about. I'm running a little over time. I do want to give time for questions. The last comment I want to make is thank you again very much for taking your time to join us today. We do appreciate your time. And if anyone wants, we can provide a no-cost Guardian Shield MDR attack surface report for your organization as a thank you for spending your time with us today. Email whatever account manager you already have or work with, whichever business unit you might be working with within the MSP Corp family of organizations. If you're not sure who to talk to, cybersecurity at mspcorp.ca, and we can get you in touch with the right person.